Hello, this is Little Green Ghouls, and welcome back to Goosebumps Revisited, a series where I break down a classic Goosebumps book and any episode that goes along with it. I will also be totaling up some of our Goosebumps cliches and classic moments. This week, I'm excited to visit Don't Go to Sleep. As I was reading this one, I realized I did remember bits and pieces of it, mostly towards the beginning with Matt's asshole family and all the Star Trek talk, but I'm not surprised I forgot the actual story, because this is another one of Stein's here's a bunch of random shit happening stories. However, he actually pulls it off this time. It's more fun like Beast from the East than stupid like Legend of the Lost Legend. I think it's a bit of a sleeper hit and worth checking out. This 1997 cover is pretty great, even if it really doesn't have anything to do with the actual story. It's kind of a bait and switch, like my video thumbnails can sometimes be. I like the distorted look of the room and the monster hand popping up like the Evil Dead poster. I just think it's a nice cover, despite being irrelevant to the story. The 2005 slime border replaces an awesome color pairing with blue and orange, which kind of washes out the picture since it's already heavy on blue and orange, so not really a fan of it. Again, there wasn't any additional merchandise aside from our usual trading card book tear out, and I'm kind of sad how the book specific merchandise really fizzled out by the end here. However, the back of this book goes nuts with the promo for other Goosebumps shit. We have an advertisement for a Give Yourself Goosebumps book, and I never really liked these because I just felt obligated to read every possible scenario, and I didn't find that interesting enough to hold my child attention span. There's also an advertisement for Goosebumps Presents TV book. This one focuses on Attack of the Mutant. On the next page, we have an advertisement for More and More Tales to Give You Goosebumps, which is another short stories collection, except at certain bookstores you can apparently also get a Goosebumps hat with your book. The next page has something fun with the Goosebumps CD-ROM game Escape from Horrorland, and I never played this as a kid, but I did watch Brutal Moose play it like a year ago. Part of me would like to play it, but it kind of just seemed like a point-and-click game. We're not done yet though. There is still more in the back of this book with an ad for R.L. Stine's autobiography, It Came From Ohio, My Life as a Writer, which is something I should probably check out at some point, considering I've been going through these books for like a year now. Then on the very last page, there's a Goosebumps rebate offer where you can mail in this coupon with proof of purchase of 2 Goosebumps books, and you get $2 back. This kind of seems like a shitty deal, like wow, $2 whole. Our front tag says, Rise and Shine Forever. This sort of has to do with the plot of the book, but not really. Our back tag says, it's a no snooze situation. I think there could have been some attempt at referencing this multiverse situation that's in this book, but let's check out the blurb on the back. Matt hates his tiny bedroom. It's so small, it's practically a closet. Still, Matt's mom refuses to let him sleep in the guest room. After all, they might have guests. Someday. Or year. Then Matt does it. Late one night, when everybody's in bed, he sneaks into the guest room and falls asleep. Poor Matt, he should have listened to his mom, because when Matt wakes up, his whole life has changed. For the worse. And every time he falls asleep, he wakes up in a new nightmare. Okay, on to our summary. The book opens with our introduction to Matt, and unlike Crystal from last week, he's making a strong first impression with his love for Klingons and all things Star Trek. I also really like Star Trek, but Matt's older siblings, Greg and Pam, do not, and spend a few pages taunting Matt for liking all things geeky. In a switch to the formula, Greg and Pam are much older than Matt, and are both still in high school. The family dog even hates Matt and once stuck into his room and bit him while he was sleeping. This dog is a schnauzer named Biggie, so that tracks for me. All the wiener dogs I've ever met are little grouches. We also learned that Matt's dad died when he was a baby, so I wonder if that will come into play like later on, like in Beware the Snowman. Matt is a little hoarder, which does not mesh well with the fact that he has the smallest room in the house. Even the guest room is bigger. This would bother the hell out of me, and given that his mom is never home because she works 2 jobs, I'd move all my shit into the guest room repeatedly until she gave up. Eventually, Matt's siblings get tired of tormenting him and he falls asleep reading a book. He is then abruptly woken up by Biggie's hot breath on his face, in what I think is supposed to be a chapter cliffhanger since we established this dog bites. This ends up being the work of his older siblings because they put Biggie on his bed while Matt was sleeping. These siblings are extra evil. They're trying to get their brother's face mauled off. Matt's mom arrives home and Matt gets stuck cooking dinner even though it's Greg's turn. At dinner, we then have an argument at the dinner table over Matt's small room. This book is getting right into it because once his mom leaves for her second job, Matt sneaks into the guest bedroom and goes to sleep. When he wakes up, he's confused because his feet are suddenly enormous. He shuffles into the bathroom, and once he looks in the mirror, he realizes he's aged into a teenager. Matt is a connoisseur of classic American folklore, and he thinks he's been Rip Van Winkled. He falls down the stairs because he's not used to his awkward teenage body, and is even more confused when he finds that Greg and Pam are now 11 and 12 years old, and Biggie seems to like him. Everyone is acting like this is perfectly normal, and Matt is horrified when his mom drops him off at the high school. I can easily see this being scary to a kid because when I was younger, I thought teenagers were intimidating. I was not one of those kids in a hurry to grow up at all. Once in the high school, Matt immediately comes across a giant kid who says he's going to make Matt pay for what he did yesterday. Matt has no idea who this boy is and what he did to wrong him to the degree that he deserves an ass kicking. Matt dives into a nearby classroom to escape the bully. In class, they're going over calculus, and he quickly realizes this is not the class for him, and makes his way over to the English class he belongs in. In English, they're reading Anna Karenina, and Matt struggles to read the giant Russian names out loud, and even to understand what he's reading. His confusion is interpreted as defiance, and this eventually gets him sent to the principal's office. I'm impressed Matt is still in this building. I would have skipped out the moment his mom drove off. He finds the principal's office and considers just leaving, but then he comes across the giant bully from earlier, who still wants to pummel him, so he takes his chances on the principal. He makes the mistake of trying to explain exactly what happened to him, and she just thinks he's either sick, stressed, or faking it and sends him to PE anyways. I'm again impressed this kid is sticking around for this torture. There's no way you'd get me back in a high school gym class. Once in PE, Matt suffers through a volleyball game where he manages to injure 2 of his teammates because he still doesn't know his own strength. Finally, at lunch, Matt makes the correct decision to ditch school, but when he's racing out the back doors, he manages to crash into a mystery person in a chapter cliffhanger. This ends up being a random 12-year-old girl named Lacey that he thinks is cute, which is branching into uncomfortable territory considering she's like 12 and he's now 17. He spots the principal and has to take off quickly. Once at home, he just watches TV until bedtime, where he turns to the guest room, dreading the next day. Once he awakens, he's thrilled to see he's back in his 12-year-old body. He races downstairs, and his good mood is instantly ruined when he spots 2 strangers sitting at the kitchen table. The man and the woman keep insisting that they're his parents, and Matt notices Biggie has been replaced with a cat. He tries to tell these random people they're not his family, but they just think he's joking and load him up in the car to take him to school. Another notable difference here is Matt's new family seems to be rich. Once at his new middle school, he comes across Lacey again, who is the girl he crashed into earlier. They head to lunch together at 8:30 in the morning, and this is explained away as the school having a crazy schedule. That is way too early for 1% milk and shitty hamburgers. Matt tries to see if Lacey remembers him from yesterday outside the high school, but gets interrupted by 2 bully teenagers in all black who seem to be running towards him. He races off the playground and he eventually finds his way back to his new house. He then proceeds to call various relatives, because in the 90s we had phone numbers memorized, and he's disappointed when nobody he seems to know seems to exist anymore. He even has the operator try searching up some family members, and this also goes nowhere. He again spends the rest of the day just watching TV before going back to the guest room to sleep. When he wakes up the next morning, he's now 8 years old. He's standing in the bathroom contemplating the state of his life when he's suddenly attacked by some clawed creature in a chapter cliffhanger. Matt's life is getting progressively weirder because this ends up being a monkey named Pansy, who appears to be some sort of household pet. He runs into a large man in the hallway that's his father in this universe, who tells him to go and get into costume and head downstairs for breakfast. Once at breakfast, things just keep getting weirder and weirder for Matt. He has 6 brothers and 6 sisters, and the family all seems to work in the circus. Matt also appears to be the star of the show, which explains why he has to wear a blue and white striped leotard covered in stars. This is one of Stein's let's just string random shit together books, but unlike Legend of the Lost Legend, he's actually kind of pulling it off here. The guest bedroom multiverse setup is making for a fairly enjoyable story. Matt gets hauled off to the circus, where he worries he's going to be part of the trapeze act, but in a chapter cliffhanger he learns no, he's actually a lion tamer when his dad throws him in the lion cage. The dad then announces that Matt will be riding the lion as part of the act, and Matt just looks at this man like he's lost his goddamn mind. The dad reminds Matt to be careful because their brother Tom is still trying to learn how to write left-handed, which got an actual chuckle out of me. Matt pieces out and races out of the lion cage and hides behind some trailers in the parking lot, where he again runs into Lacey. Before he can really chat with her, 2 men in black appear and start to chase after him. It occurs to him that in each universe he's ran into Lacey and has been chased by 2 mystery men. He ends up racing back into the lion cage for some reason, where he has a standoff with the 2 mystery men. Eventually the lion chases them off, and they never explain what they want with Matt, despite him asking repeatedly. He finds his new circus family and they load up the van and head home. Once at home, he tries to go to sleep early in the guest bed, but is struggling to fall asleep because each time he does, his life gets weirder and weirder, so he's just a tad bit anxious. He's finally able to fall asleep by thinking of all the good things that could happen in a random universe instead of just the bad. When he wakes up though, he's very disappointed to see he's an old man, and considers this to be the worst one yet. Matt decides just to nope his way out of this one and goes right back to sleep. He quickly regrets this decision though, because when he wakes up he notices he has green skin and claws, and once he makes his way to the mirror he sees he's some sort of monster now. I tried to scream, I tried to shout, this can't be happening to me, but all that came out was a terrifying snarl. No, I thought in a total panic. I felt like tearing my horrible skin off. I was a hideous monster, and I couldn't even talk. I was big, almost 7 feet tall, and powerful. My skin was scaly green with black stripes like a lizard. I oozed slime all over. My head looked like a dinosaur's, with warts all over it. 3 spiky horns poked out of the top of my head, between 4 pointy ears. My hands and feet had sharp claws. My toenails clicked on the bathroom floor when I walked. I was one ugly, ugly dude. Monster Matt decides the only logical thing to do at this point is find Lacey. I figured this would warrant going back to sleep, but I guess being old is worse than being a giant lizard. He is relieved to find that he has no monster family in this universe, but once he steps outside, people begin running in terror away from him. He tries to explain himself, but all that comes out is various roars. He suddenly feels very hungry and is craving metal, so he attacks a car and spends a few pages eating it as a mob begins to form. In the mob, he spots Lacey, who seems to be the only one coming towards him versus running away from him like everybody else. She takes him by the claw and races him out of town and towards a little house in the woods. Once inside, Matt is shocked to find Lacey has led him right to the two men in black from earlier. They quickly trap Monster Matt in a net and lock him in a back room where he's now helpless. He falls asleep, and when he wakes up, he's a 14-year-old boy, but is still trapped in the same room. I was thinking the guest bed was magic or something, but I guess not. Lacey and the men, Wayne and Bruce, reappear and try to explain to Matt that he's trapped in a reality warp, which sounds a lot like a multiverse. When Matt fell asleep in the guest bedroom, he fell through a loop in reality, and now every time he falls asleep, everything changes. Lacey and these two men are reality police, and they had to capture Matt since every time he changes reality, he's breaking the law and making it harder and harder to fix things. Matt is confused and thinks they're going to force him to stay awake forever, but it's actually the opposite. They reveal they're going to put him to sleep forever. They exit the room and lock the door. Matt can hear them outside discussing how he's going to drink all of the sleeping potion or it won't work. Then he has an idea. He can fall asleep and potentially escape. He's stressed the fuck out though, so sleeping won't be easy, but he's able to pull this off by singing a lullaby his mom used to sing to him. When he wakes up, he thinks nothing has changed because at first he's still in the same room, but eventually it occurs to him to check out his body, and he's surprised to see he's now a squirrel. This feels very Disney Sword in the Stone with all these transformations, and now he's a squirrel too.
It's a most hodgepodgeical, most illogical, most confusely thing. I'm an old man. By George!
He wastes no time and leaps out of the barred window. He has squirrel superpowers and he can smell his old house, so he races towards home. He's a little too eager to get home and nearly gets smushed by a car at one point. He makes it home eventually and is relieved to see his mom, Pam, and Greg are still alive in this universe. He hops up to the kitchen window, and Pam thinks he's just so cute she opens the door and lets him into the kitchen. The mom is rightfully not pleased by this, and we have a chase scene through the kitchen as Matt tries to make his way to his bedroom. Matt is convinced if he sleeps in his own bed, everything will snap back to normal. Pam catches Squirrel Matt, but instead of throwing him back outside like the mom wants, she sneaks him into her old hamster cage because I guess this girl has always wanted a pet squirrel. So now Matt is trapped in a different cage than before, but at least the reality police haven't found him yet. Pam returns for some nuts for Matt and forgets to close the cage door, so he's able to make his escape. This doesn't really go anywhere though, because both the bedroom door and bedroom window are shut tight. He decides all that's left to do is go to sleep again and hope for better luck in the next universe, so little squirrel Matt takes a nap in the tree. He wakes up with a thud because now he's a fat 12-year-old and has fallen out of the tree. There's not that many pages left, so I think Stein will be able to keep the fat hatred to a minimum, potentially. We don't need another say cheese and die again on our hands here. He knocks on the front door and his mom answers, but she has no idea who this kid is, and his demands to sleep in her son's bed are not well received. She slams the door on Matt and the reality police appear. He takes off running, but this isn't easy because, fat. He hides in some bushes and the reality police can't find him. He decides to stay hidden until night so he can break into the house and sleep in his old bed. Once he sees everybody is asleep, he begins the multi-page process of climbing into a tree and into his bedroom window. None of this is easy because, again, fat. He successfully gets into the house and into bed. He goes to sleep, and when he wakes up, he's excited to see he's back to his old self. He has a lovely morning and a day at school where he's on cloud 9 because he's just happy to have his old life back. He has one brief scare where he thinks he sees Lacey, but it ends up just being a random blonde girl with a ponytail. At home, his mom has a surprise for him. She's moved all of his stuff into the guest room because she's decided he was right. He does deserve the guest room. So that's how this one ends, with Matt screaming in terror at the sight of his new bedroom. We are finally back to Goosebumps books that have direct episode pairings with this week's Don't Go to Sleep. So let's see how they were able to adapt this multiverse book to an episode. I guess this makes more sense than just having an unused guest room that your own child can't have.
If I can move my room to the attic.
Where'd you get that idea?
Matt does not like being told no.
That's reality, Matt.
This kid is determined and is even resorting to a sleeping bag. Matt is just a little bit bitter still.
You know something? I don't care what anyone says. I'm hanging out here today.
That's reality, Matt.
Reality. Who needs it?
Time for some special effects.
Sorry, that's the way it is. That's reality, man. That's reality.
So in this universe, Matt appears to be some sort of sports superstar.
You want to put my picture on a cereal box?
Here come the Men in Black.
That's reality. Life is on a roll. That's reality.
This episode definitely has a surrealist feeling to it.
Hey, don't be like that guy. Looks like a little kid out there.
Get me out of here! I don't belong here.
You got that right, kid.
He wants his mommy.
Your mommy?
I don't know if I'm feeling this episode. It's just kind of odd.
Quickly, doctor. The patient's baby.
There's been a mistake. I'm not a doctor.
Ready to be operated on.
The president?
Yes. We're ready. Start cutting.
We must operate. Start the cutting now.
Let's go.
Like, what am I even watching? They've kind of just tossed away the sleep aspect of the plot.
Now, in 20 seconds, which wire? Come on, which wire?
It definitely gives nightmare vibes, I'll give it that.
She's quite a girl, Matt.
Congratulations, Matt. How dare you keep me waiting on our wedding day?
I don't even really know what to say. I'm just kind of sitting here looking puzzled.
Supreme Court of the Unified Universe?
I said no. I said no.
Who are you guys?
I'll tell you where you are. You're in trouble.
Some of this feels a little Alice in Wonderland too.
Crimes against reality. Guilty!
Guilty?
Guilty, guilty, guilty! Guilty, guilty, guilty!
It was only a dream.
Come on down right now.
Are you listening to me?
Yes, honey, I'm sorry. You had a bad dream.
Oh, guess not. What the hell did I just watch?
Fun's just beginning.
Overall, I thought Don't Go to Sleep was a decent enough story, and Stein was able to create a plotline where progressively random and weird shit is actually justified. I don't think there are many actual scares in this book. It kind of gives more sci-fi than horror, but I think it's aware of this with how many references to sci-fi books, movies, and TV shows there are. I'm gonna give this one 4 out of 5 Klingons. It's kind of a change of pace for the series, and not particularly scary, but I still enjoyed it. It was also nice that it didn't drag and moved at a decent pace. Okay, on to our totals. Don't Go to Sleep didn't have any vomit, shoulder scares, asshole victims, or it was only a dreams. Although I did consider counting the 7 universe changes in this story as dreams. In Getting Jiggy with the 90s, we had 5 90s moments. These included Star Trek, voice recorder toys, noogies, having multiple phone numbers memorized, and calling an operator for information. This raises our Goosebumps series total to 168 jiggy 90s moments. There was just one prank in Don't Go to Sleep, where Greg and Pam stick a vicious biggie on a sleeping Matt. This raises our total to 121 pranks. Don't Go to Sleep was pretty sparse on the cliffhangers with a total of 10 chapter cliffhangers. This raises our Goosebumps series total to 662. There's no Clunky Award this week because I didn't find the few cliffhangers in this story to be that terrible. I have to say, as the series progresses, Stein seems to clean up some of the worst aspects of the cliffhangers. Shocker ending. Our big twist of this book was kind of boring compared to most shocker endings, with Matt's mom moving him into the guest room as a surprise. This raises our Goosebumps series total to 45. Well, that's it for Don't Go to Sleep. I liked this one more than I expected to, considering I tend to dislike the more random books in Goosebumps. Next week is The Blob That Ate Everyone, which is one of the books I randomly owned, and I remember liking it. I always thought the blob looked tasty. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Don't Go to Sleep. Should Matt have kept sleeping until he hit a jackpot universe? How did Lacey become a reality cop at 12? Would you have enjoyed life as a squirrel? Also, what did you think of my nightmare horror clips this week? The Nightmare on Elm Street movies have a lot of fun and gross scenes, so I was excited for an excuse to use them. Anyways, as always, thanks again for watching, and make sure you subscribe for
the pride, the love,